right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Jess, we definitely have a lot of things to talk about here tonight on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Make sure you give us a call tonight, 412-575-2600. The phone number is right there, and the phone lines are open. We have a couple lines open right now, so get on board and give us a call. I'm joined by Jeff Hathhorn for tonight's show. He had a chance to call a great game tonight, but you also had a chance to watch a not-so-great game. The Pirates lose to the Brewers 4-3. They only had 3 hits. The one thing that I liked about tonight, Connor Joe played. He wasn't on the bench, and he was 1 for 3, and his batting average still leads the team at 293.
You know, I was wondering in the 9th if they would just pinch hit for Connor Joe, for Rowdy Tellez, just to help all of us out that do talk shows, because that would have inflamed people, especially after Connor Joe homered. But yeah, listen, Connor Joe's the everyday first baseman, and then Rowdy Tellez, maybe he plays against a really tough righty. I mean, that has to be your platoon right now, unless you make a major roster change. And DFA Rowdy Tellez, like that's got to be it. I don't care who the righty is, and this is a righty today that is really good against right-handers in Ross.
Yeah, how about bring up Lamb maybe? I would DFA Tellez. He hasn't done anything, and I know you disagree with me, but he just doesn't look like he's given a ton of effort up there either. His swings just don't look right. I think he upset a lot of Pirates fans earlier when he was sticking up when he said those things in the locker room. So I don't think people, and he's not hitting. So I don't think people would be too upset if you just DFA'd him and whatever. I know the Pirates would have to eat that money, call up a guy like Lamb. But here, to your point about right-handers, a tough right-hander maybe, but Connor Joe's hitting like 280 against righties. He's not hitting that bad.
Listen, he's your most consistent hitter. He needs to be out there. You know, if O'Neal Cruz is hitting, he's out there. If Brian Reynolds is hitting, he's out there. If Brian Hayes is healthy and hitting, he's out there. Same with Connor Joe. I mean, right now in the Pirates lineup and in the Pirates, group of 26, Connor Joe is one of those guys who's an everyday player. He's not an everyday player, but on this team right now, he is. And Rowdy needs to be one of those guys that's at the end of the bench, come in, give him a pinch hit opportunity off a right-hander.
I had a couple people tweet at me today saying that Connor Joe would get exposed if he was an everyday player. He should be a platoon player. Now, I guess these are Super Bucko fans, but when you look at the stats and the at-bats, Connor Joe is the 5th most at-bats on the team. So he's almost like an everyday player, and he's batting 293. So I disagree with that. But I do agree with what you said. The problem with the Pirates right now, they just have a bunch of average players, a bunch of players that are, utility players that can play multiple positions. No stars basically anywhere outside of potentially O'Neal Cruz.
Well, and Richie, let me clarify. I think that on a good team that Connor Joe is a platoon player. But given their situation right now, he can't be a platoon player. I mean, you remember guys in the past, guys like, remember Rob Makoviak?
Yeah.
Your kid. He would have these huge months or weeks and people, if you project his average out over, 500 at-bats, he's going to hit 35 homers. Well, the reality was he was never that kind of player. You just ride a hot streak. You do the same thing with Connor Joe because you just don't have another option. And, it's not just there. They're not getting any production offensively out of the catching position. Center field is hit and miss, although I love Michael A. Taylor's defense. And Jared Triolo isn't doing anything for me. I mean, if you want to bring up another guy, bring up Peguero and let him play the infield and send Triolo down and let him work on his bat. Or find a way to get, Ji-Hwan Bae on this team. He brings some speed. I know that Shelton said on the Fan today that he really likes Andrew McCutchen and that he's going to be his leadoff guy for the foreseeable future. And he is swinging the bat better than the results he's getting. And I think he has, hits in 6 of his last 8. But Ji-Hwan Bae would be a nice fit somewhere on this team, someone that can disrupt, maybe bring something to an offense that, granted they had 8 runs yesterday, but kind of fell back into what we've seen before with 13 strikeouts today. Yeah,
Ji-Hwan Bae could send Jack Sawinski maybe to the bench, a guy that was 0 for 4 today, struck out twice, batting 172. Someone like him. The problem also with this team is you got a couple guys that are streaky players. How long do you wait? Like a Rowdy Tellez and a Jack Sawinski. How long do you wait for them to get hot? It's like getting to the point where it's too late.
Well, Sawinski's part of your future. Rowdy is not. So I think I'm more patient with Sawinski than I am with Rowdy, because Rowdy's just a one-year sign. He's just filling a gap until you have somebody else take that position. Although I don't know who that is, because there's no one down in the minors, maybe a Malcolm Nunez that maybe has some kind of potential to take over first base for you. I still think that's going to be a free agent ad next year. But, listen, at the end of last year when he was struggling in August, there was they bristled at sending Sawinski down. I imagine that's the same mindset. I don't understand why he can't work on things down there if you have a team right now where you said you're committed to winning this year.
All right, we got to take a break. Phone lines are jammed right now. We're taking your phone calls coming up next. Stay right there. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. This is our GMC Tweet of the Night, and you can see some leaks are starting to come out here, Jeff. This is from Zach Klein from WSB. That's one of the news stations in Atlanta. He said multiple sources have told him around the league that the Falcons will open up the NFL season at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers and former head coach and current Steelers OC Arthur Smith. That's one that I do believe. There's a lot of rumors out there and fake accounts, and we've seen that everyone's been duped over the years, that I don't believe. Also, a guy that works at your station, Andrew Filipponi, one of our peers here on this show, who you're filling in for today. He's saying Christmas Day, Kansas City. That's another believable one. He wasn't wrong. He was perfect last year. Another one I've seen out there was Denver, the second week of the season. So, potentially all three of those could be true, but it's likely that they're going to open the season in Atlanta. I don't mind that at all.
No, I mean, the NFL is amazing. Here we are, like everybody's going crazy about the release of a schedule.
I know,
you
right?
know what the teams, are going to be, and they're dragging this out, and they're dropping little clues, and they're throwing out little tidbits, some true, some not. It is amazing. I think Christmas Day is very believable. The Steelers are a very big draw. Kansas City is obviously a huge draw. That makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, you got to open somewhere. Atlanta at least is some kind of story. I'm sure they're going to be sexier openers. I love the idea of opening in Denver just because of who knows how long Russell Wilson's going to be the quarterback, and he's going to start at quarterback. So, I mean, I think that would be the one to me that I would really like to see. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense to get Denver early because of the quarterback situation. And I'm pretty sure that the Steelers are playing on Christmas. I know I was told that they were going to play on Christmas a couple months ago, that it was all signs are pointing that way. So that actually makes a lot of sense. Let's go out to the phone lines.
Will that mean?
Go ahead.
Will that mean the Steelers have played every day of the week, right? Because they had that one. Was it a Tuesday night game they had against the Ravens during COVID? I think they've played every night of the week.
What about Friday? I don't remember.
Friday.
When did they play?
Friday.
Yeah, except for Friday. But there is a Friday game this year, I think, right? The Eagles play in Brazil on a Friday night, I think. So
maybe maybe that's what they're going to do with the Steelers playing a Wednesday game. Maybe they'll have some kind of wild Friday night contest, before Christmas. That way it gives the team an extra day of rest.
So what I was told that playing Christmas, you were going to play on Saturday. So it's similar to the Sunday. I know. I get what you're saying. But, so you can pretty much guess that if they're playing on Christmas, they're going to play on that Saturday, too. All right. Out to the phone lines. We got Dave out on the north side. How you doing, Dave? Dave? All right, no Dave. So let's go out to Mark and Tyanesta. How you doing, Mark?
Guys, you stole my thunder on the Rowdy stuff, which I knew you would. But anyway, there's no reason this guy should be on the team. He's got, I think, one home run. He's got a big swing that's too slow. He doesn't make contact. You put Connor Joe out there. The one thing about him, he does have home runs, and he makes contact. And when you make contact, things happen. And Rowdy should be gone. There's no reason to keep him on this team anymore.
Yeah, Mark, it's like when you shoot the puck at the net, you get lucky every once in a while. And Connor Joe, I'm not saying this guy's an all-star. We're not calling him some star. But he's a good player, a good utility player, I think, on a good team, like you mentioned, and maybe a good platoon player on a really good team. But right now, he should be an everyday player for the Pirates. Let's go back out to the phone lines. We got Mike out in Castle Shannon. How you doing, Mike?
Are you?
Mike, you there?
Yes, I am.
Good.
Sawinski, he's got to go. He's had his chances. He's not performing. He spends more time striking out. He can't even hit his weight. That's ridiculous. He's not the future for the Pirates.
Well, obviously this fan's a little frustrated, Jeff. But you want to wait a little bit on this guy. I mean, we know what he is. He's going to get hot.
No.
Yeah.
No, don't confuse. I'm telling you that what the Pirates that they're not. That doesn't seem to be in their playbook right now. And when he struggled last year, that wasn't even a thought process that he would go down to AAA. I'm not saying I wouldn't send him down there. I think he could use some time down there. There's obviously some things either he's not recognizing or a flaw in his swing, whatever it is. I mean, he's never played in AAA. Remember, he went from AA to the majors.
Mm-hmm.
Like other players have had to go down. They've figured something out and come back up. I think the other thing that Cherington warned everybody about, and I say this to think inside his head, that he thinks that some of these guys that are struggling here would put up those kind of numbers in AAA, kind of demeaning what's happening with some of those players in AAA, that they're really maybe not going to put up good numbers if they get to the majors. If that's the case, then they're just hosed.
Yeah, Sawinski to me is a very frustrating player. I mean, it's just so frustrating when a guy goes on a streak and you love him, and then he does this and he's batting 172. You can't put him in the middle of the order. You can't do it. You got to find a G1 Bay would be maybe an answer to this. All right, back out to the phone. And go ahead.
Yeah, and Richie, I mean, why not give him a shot? I mean, at this point, it's been a month and a half. I mean, it's not like you're doing it after 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And there's a pretty good sample size here.
All right, Kirk out in Manor. How you doing, Kirk?
Pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for calling.
Good.
Yep. I just wanted to pick your brain. Do you think there is quite possibly a worse trio of coach/manager between Shelton, Tomlin, and Sullivan? Thanks, guys.
Hey, look, I appreciate the question. Shelton doesn't have the players. Tomlin wins. I know a lot of people get frustrated about the playoff record, and at some point you have to hold him accountable, but he somehow turns bad teams into winning teams. Not that I'm defending him, but I still think he's a good coach. He just hasn't won a playoff game in a long time. As for Sullivan, I still feel like he's coaching like he was in 2015, 16, and 17-ish.
I think those are great points, Richie. I'll ditto you with Shelton, and I think with Sullivan, they've got to just change the style. I think they have a little bit, but the one thing with Sullivan is you got to change the structure on the power play. Like it's always been this thing where I want to let my playmakers make plays. I want to give them the freedom. Well, they don't deserve the freedom. They deserve a structure where they need to be here, 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 because what you did last year didn't work. And as much as you kind of scapegoated, and understandably so, Todd Reardon was ahead of the power play. He couldn't come back. But it was your system. You're the head coach. You can always change that. Same with Mike Tomlin. They've invested enough, I think, in this team that I would say this about Tomlin. If they take a step back, meaning if they do finally have a losing season or they just really underperform, I think he might be on the hot seat. Not that he would necessarily be fired after this year, but I think those conversations would start to happen because they've invested a lot in this group. They know what the playoff record is, and the fact that they haven't done anything in the postseason in years, and they're trying to make this better, and they've put their money where their mouth is, and now Tomlin's got to come through and have a good year and allow this team to be what they haven't been.
It's a very important year for Tomlin. I'm not going to say it's a make or break year, but he can't take a step backwards. There's no question about that. I think the team will be better. The problem with this situation is that he has a window too. He has a couple more years of these guys on defense, and unlike the Sullivan window, I think is closed, and hopefully the Pirates window is opening.
Here's the problem with the Steelers. I think the Steelers are better, but Cleveland's good. Cincinnati gets Burrow back. Baltimore is good. Kansas City's good. Buffalo's good. The Jets should be better. Oh, and by the way, maybe the best team or the biggest team on the rise is Houston.
Miami is good.
Really,
yeah.
Right. You know, Jacksonville might bounce back. Who knows? I mean, there are some really good teams in the AFC, and 3 of them are within your own division. So I think 2 things can be true. I think they can be better, but I think they may not have a chance to realize a Super Bowl because they're not in the upper echelon. And until they prove it on the field, they're not in the upper echelon of the AFC.
All right, we're going to get the break here. Back with a couple phone calls coming up next. Stay right there. All right, now it's time to bring in Ken Rice to find out what's coming up on KDKA News at 11. Ken?
Hey, Rich, tonight a local school district search for a superintendent takes a turn as the top candidate suddenly pulls out of the competition. Plus, why officials in Union Township are pleading for help and what a local county is doing to combat election districts. Yep, all coming up at 11.
All right, see you in a couple of minutes, Ken. All right, back to the phone lines. We got Steve out in Dormont. How you doing, Steve?
What's up, Richie? How are you?
Good, thanks for calling.
I called about Paul Skeens
and
Jared Jones. I think if I heard a lot of talk about how this could be like an 0-1 Diamondbacks or whatever year that was, but I think if we're going for that model, then they better make sure that Skeens and Jones.
They better make sure they can hit if you have guys like that. And I'm optimistic, Jeff, about the 1-2 punch of those guys and Mitch Keller.
I mean, even with Priester has gotten the lowest run support on the staff. And actually, he fought through after one bad inning. But, yeah, they've got to find some rhythm. I mean, we've seen little spurts of it here. You are optimistic about O'Neal Cruz starting to come around and maybe Brian Reynolds, but they need more guys to be able to have a consistent lineup. There's too many guys that aren't hitting.
Yeah, they had 3 games of 22 runs and 10 home runs. They were 2-1 of those 3 games, and then today they had 3 hits. 3 hits. I mean, from a major league, I understand, they got major league players too, but this is a major league roster. I mean, you got to do better than 3 hits.
And Richie, hey, Nick Gonzalez was a guy that you called up and took a chance on. He had a 2-run homer today. Yeah. So why not give other guys chances and see if they can come up and hit a 2-run homer?
Let's walk it back to like the Penguins, the X generation. Is that what it was? Back in the Rika Fata era.
It was.
Let's go back to the X generation with the Buccos. Hey, thanks a lot, Jeff. I really appreciate the last couple days. We'll see you soon on this show, and hopefully we see you guys over on KDKA News in just a few minutes.